Hello, everybody. Welcome along to Sportsbet TV. This is Paul Alster here with you, and always glad to be looking ahead to the weekend action. If you're discovering me for the first time, then press the subscribe button just below this screen, and you'll be kept informed of all the each-way selections that I make on a weekly basis. And, of course, I'll also be here at all the big festival meetings day to day, including, of course, the Cheltenham Festival, which is now closing in very fast and is less than 5 weeks away. Well, I have 4 selections for you this Saturday, hoping very much that our luck will turn. Over the course of the service, since we started in July 2020, we've made a tremendous profit, but there's no two ways about it. The last 3 months or so have been very thin indeed, and things just haven't gone our way. Still selecting them the same way I always have, but we just haven't had the rub of the green, and to be fair, some of them have run really poorly. It's a case of keeping the faith and maybe reducing stakes when results aren't going your way. That's always something to think about. No point trying to chase after things. I must say, though, that once again, small fields are making the job pretty difficult because you're in a position of having a much smaller selection of races on which to focus for each way events. And that has been the case time after time this winter. And looking again at the racing for Saturday, a lot of single figure fields, a lot of 7 runners or less. And however, I have managed to focus on a few races where there are decent sized fields and each way opportunities are there. So we have the 4 recommendations for this weekend. 3 of them come from the feature card at Newbury and 1 is from Warwick. And just before I go to them, I want to just say a big thank you to a horse called Agrapart, who has been trained by Jane Williams, and it was announced in today's Racing Post, Agrapart is to retire. It's been a great servant, and last March was a terrific winner for us at 18-1 at Kelso. So we wish this horse that Lizzie Kelly did very well on many times a very happy, healthy and long retirement. We love to see these old horses going out and being able to go on and enjoy life. Well, let's hope that amongst the 4 selections today, there'll be 1 or maybe more that pop up at a decent price. And my first choice for Saturday is at Newbury in the 150. Now, this is a 3-mile handicap hurdle. We're just about clinging on to the each-way bet here with 8 runners, and the going is forecast good to soft. Now, amongst the 8 runners is a horse called Polish, or Polish, I'm not sure which, I think it's Polish. Fergal O'Brien trains this horse, who actually won this very race 12 months ago in 2021 and campaigns now back off the same mark. That's having not really shone in 3 hurdles this winter, but as a result of that, he's dropped back £7 to his old mark, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes here. Samuel Drinkwater has been doing quite well this season. His Brimming Water, the Brimming Water, is an ex-Irish maiden winner, and it won at Wetherby on Boxing Day for the current yard, and then was a solid 3rd at Haydock last time. And no doubt the Brimming Water will have his supporters. James Evans, the trainer, has Risk and Roll, who's an ex-Hunter chaser, who was a good 7-length winner last time out, over 3 miles, 1 furlong, in a Huntingdon handicap hurdle. But the handicapper has rather got his teeth into him after this, and he's put him up £10, which is quite a hike. And then, having seen during the course of this week, Alan King's horse is starting to really run very well indeed. Coeur de Lion is one you can't discount. He was, of course, 4th in the Chester Cup on the flat in May, and he's been given a chance by the handicapper over hurdles, and he should be sharper for a run on the level on the all-weather recently. But there really is a fascinating horse here, and he's my choice. The horse in question is called the Big Breakaway, and he's trained by the excellent Colin Tizard down there in the West Country. And Brendan Powell will be on board this horse, who developed into a really smart novice chaser last term. He was 2nd in the Grade 1 Cato Star Novices Chase at Kempton in 2020. And then he finished 3rd at last year's Cheltenham Festival to Monkfish. And that, of course, was a really hot race. And he was running well in 2nd place at Newton Abbot on his reappearance when he fell against Braidman's Game. That was this season. We know how good Braidman's Game is. And then he was beaten in a match race by Chantry House, who, of course, is a high-class horse, and he was eased right off by his jockey quite sensibly once it was clear he wasn't going to be able to lay a glove on Chantry House. But since that run, 97 days ago, he's had a breathing operation. So obviously they feel something wasn't quite right with the big breakaway. And so often that breathing operation can make one hell of a difference. He's also had a 97-day break, and he's coming back to hurdles, and he's only ever had 3 runs over hurdles. He won 2 of them, and the only time he was beaten over timber was when 4th at the Cheltenham Festival in no less a race in the Grade 1 Ballymore Hurdle of 2020, which was won by Envoy-Allen. So his only defeat was in a very high-class race over hurdles. So he remains unexposed over timber. He does have top weight, but his mark of 144 doesn't look ridiculous by any means. And I think it gives him a chance, especially if that breathing operation has helped him and sees him able to run to his full potential. Now, at the time of this recording, we're recording very early this chilly Friday morning, 8-1 is available each way for 4 places with Sky Bet. And I think that's good value. So for me, the big breakaway to bounce back to form and make it 3 from 4 in his hurdling career at Newbury on Saturday in the 150 for Colin Tizard and Brendan Powell. Now, my second selection is the only one not at Newbury, and this is at Warwick, where once again, the card is blighted by small fields, and normally they get plenty of runners at Warwick because it's always decent ground and proper jumping ground, you know. But the 3:15 race is a 2.5-mile handicap chase, and there are 11 runners here, so we're able to have an each-way bet. Célèbre d'Allen for Philip Hobbs is a horse on the up, a talented French chaser. He was off for more than 2 years and then joined Hobbs's yard and has won 2 races in heavy ground at Haydock. Over hurdles, both of them off 120 and 126. And now they're switching him back to fences. Now, of course, British fences are rather different to French fences, but he's obviously got a lot of ability and is here off 135 on his British chasing bow. Question is he going to prove as effective over British fences and, of course, off a higher mark than he competed off over hurdles recently, as well as the better ground, because both his wins came in the mud, but he is a very unexposed horse. Now, Nicky Henderson has Falco Blitz, who won first time 11 months ago at Kempton, Kempton, and that's gone up £3. He's only gone up £3 for that win at Kempton after the 11 months, and that was a competitive race, so I think he'll remain very much one to be wary of. Jenny Candlish had a good prize winner just the other day, and it looks like her horses are coming back to form. She is a much underrated trainer, and she saddles Cheddleton, who's a really tough, consistent horse, but he does look to be in the handicapper's grip because he always seems to just about run his race. And then we've got Our Power for Sam Thomas, who's won at both Wincanton and Huntingdon this winter, and he has only gone up £7 for the 2 wins, and the yard, as we know, are having a great season. And another trainer in really good form is the northeastern-based Brian Ellison. And his King of May has gone up £7 for a good win at Sedgefield last time out. And I don't discount him running well again off his revised mark. But for me, the runner here to very much give a second glance to is the Irish raider DINNY LACEY. Now, regular followers will know that I broadcast a few times a week at least on Irish racing. And DINNY LACEY is a horse who's always had quite a bit of ability. He's trained by James Motherway, who's a talented Irish trainer, and Robbie Power is on board. Now, Robbie Power, of course, is a top jockey, and it's his only ride of the day. He's flying all the way over from Ireland for the one ride when he could have probably had quite a few rides over at the Irish meeting on Saturday. For me, that's almost a tip in itself. Now, DINNY LACEY is an 8-year-old gelding by Presenting, one of the top national hunt sires. His win rate isn't brilliant. He's won 2 from 17, but he's won run lots of fair races. As a novice chaser last term, he was rated 133 in Ireland. He won at Limerick, and then he was third in a Grade 3 behind Envoy-Allen, which is very good form. He wasn't beaten far in September in a Listowel handicap chase, just beaten 4 lengths. And then on the basis of that was sent off favourite for the Munster National at Limerick in October. He ran no sort of race, to be fair. He had 11 weeks off and then was blinkered for the first time. So they obviously felt that for whatever reason, in that Munster National, he wasn't really on his game. And he actually ran very well in first-time blinkers to be a two-length third to Spyglass Hill over Christmas. Now, that was a rock-solid effort and shows the ability is definitely still there. Now, James Motherway very rarely has runners in Britain, and I've pointed out the fact that Robbie Power is coming over for the one ride. Now, often horses, if they don't click first time in blinkers, they can click second time once they understand what it's all about, having that focus and tunnel vision. And so I think it is by no means a negative that he didn't win first time in blinkers. Any more rain would certainly be a bonus, as he does like to get his toe in, but he does handle this ground. And at the time of this morning recording on Friday, the odds, of course, subject to change. So do remember to shop around and take a good look at the odds comparison sites, whichever ones you use. But the odds I'm seeing at the moment are 10 to 1 generally, each way. And that's for 3 places at present. It wouldn't surprise me if somebody goes 4 places, one of the big firms, to try and draw your money in. So for me, DINNY LACEY, very interesting, coming over from Ireland for James Motherway and Robbie Power at Warwick in the 3:15. Now, the big race of the day is the Betfair Hurdle at Newbury, the 3:35, and my third selection is in this race. It is, of course, one of the big midwinter handicap hurdles, and over the years has been won by some very, very good horses, some of whom have gone on to win high-class races. It's normally an absolute cavalry charge with 20-plus runners, 24, 25, not unknown. This year, following the trend that I mentioned earlier, only 14 runners. And to be honest, that's a bit of a godsend, because at the 5-day stage, there were 16 runners declared, and there were fears they might end up with 10 runners or something in the Betfair Hurdle, which is absolutely unimaginable. It is a hot betting race usually, and there are usually quite a few anti-post plots that are targeted on this race. I think it's a fascinating market, just looking at the market over the last few days, because the 2 horses to the 4 at 5 to 1 and 6 to 1 respectively at the time of this recording are 2 novice hurdlers who are very inexperienced and have beaten novice opposition comfortably. They are Broomfield Burke for Nicky Henderson, who has a great record in the race, and JPR1 for Colin Tizard. Now, they both have loads of potential, and they both are potentially on lenient marks. But the question is, are they going to be as effective with the lack of experience up against high-class horses who are smart handicappers, and many of which have held their own in Grade 2 and even Grade 1 company? And that is what you have to take into account when you're making your selections. Now, of the others, Soaring Glory, of course, won this race last year for John Joe O'Neill. That was off a £14, a stone lower mark than he'll have to shoulder on Saturday. But he was a 2.5 length third to Epatante in the Grade 1 Christmas Hurdle, with Glory and Fortune a neck in front of him that day, who reopposes. And back in 4th place in the Christmas Hurdle was Alan King's Tritonic, who also reopposes on Saturday. Now, I very nearly selected Soaring Glory because I do think that he will run better for a bigger field and hopefully a stronger pace. But that stone rise is just the balancing factor that I and everybody else you've got to take into account. Has he improved more than the stone rise in order to be able to repeat last year's victory? That is the question you have to ask yourself. John Joe's horses are in good form. Now, Nappers Hill is a horse who's a very exciting prospect, and his only defeat came when he was third to the very smart John Bon in a Grade 2 at Ascot in December. That was a really good run. He probably improved despite the fact that it was his only defeat. Now, the only question mark here with him is the stable form, because, as has been widely documented, Paul Nichols's horses have been going through a really quiet spell, as they often do at this time of year after they have their jabs, their flu jabs, just after the turn of the year. But they do seem to be taking just that little bit longer to come back to themselves. Although, to be fair, he hasn't had a runner this week, as far as I'm aware. So it could be that the break is just going to be enough to see his horses recover from their jabs and come back and carry all before them in the build-up to Cheltenham. So if there is market confidence for Nappers Hill, then it could be that he's going to run a really big race. But I can't recommend him given the stable form at the moment. Harry Fry's Brute Hill, well, he's £4 better off with Soaring Glory on their running at Ascot in October, but he's since disappointed, but that was in a novice chase, which he didn't really take to fences. And then you've got 50 Ball for the very shrewd Gary Moore. Now, this one was third in this very race, a 3-length second, rather, in this race 12 months ago to Soaring Glory, but he hasn't really excelled this season when switched to fences, and this coming back to this race seems to be something of an afterthought. While another one that really does have a chance for a small yard, that of Ryan Potter, is Jetoile, who was second in a Grade 1 to Constitution Hill, who's a big hope for the Brits at the Cheltenham Festival next month. And that was a strong piece of form, but I think most people feel, and I probably would agree with them, that he might be a better horse over an extra half a mile. So after all of that, and given the current odds, and with me always looking to try and find a horse at value, the one for me here is Glory and Fortune, trained by Tom Lacey and the mount of very much up-and-coming Stan Shepherd. This horse has had a good season. He won the Welsh Champion Hurdle, a handicap these days, at Foslas in October. And he was giving £5 there to subsequent Group 3 winner Don Levant, who is a very smart handicapper. He made a mistake 2 out when he was possibly in with a big chance in the Greatwood Hurdle Grade 3 at Cheltenham after that, but still finished 6th of the 19 runners. And then he went on, after not staying at Newbury 2 weeks later when he tried 2.5 miles, he went on to run that great race, finishing just ahead of Soaring Glory, stepped up to Grade 1 in what was, let's be honest, probably a slightly below par Christmas hurdle won by the former champion hurdle Epatonte. But nonetheless, that represented a step forward for Glory and Fortune, who seems to be a horse who's going the right way. He's got a really good attitude as well. I mentioned about Soaring Glory that I thought he'd be suited by a bigger field. And I think the same can be said of Glory and Fortune. And when you look at the odds, Soaring Glory at around 13-2, yet Glory and Fortune, who finished a head or a neck in front of him that day, is 20-1 each way with Bet365. He's 3 times the price, despite having finished a neck in front. Okay, he's gone up £3, and Soaring Glory has gone down a couple of pounds, but I do think that Glory and Fortune is in really good form. And Stan Shepherd is going to give him a great ride. Remember what a brilliant ride he put in to win the Welsh National for Sam Thomas a few weeks ago. So given all the above, I think the value is there with Glory and Fortune, 20-1 each way, Bet365 for 4 places in the Betfair Hurdle at Newbury, 335. And then very quickly, onto my final choice. I don't normally tip in bumpers, but there's a cracking bumper at Newbury to close the card on Saturday, the 4:45, a 2-mile listed bumper and 13 run. And there are already 1 or 2 prices up early, which I think is a sign of what an interesting race this is and how punters are having a proper look at this race. Now, over the last decade, this bumper has been won by the likes of AC Milan, Ballyandy, Barter's Hill, and Definitely Red, all of whom have become very good horses. Now, Paul Nicholls has an exciting prospect in a horse called Time for a Tune, who's 3 from 3 in bumpers, and there are not many horses managed to do that. His latest win was in a listed bumper at Cheltenham in November. But once again, that stable form is a question mark, and the fact that he's penalised make it a tougher task, so he'll do really well if he's able to make it 4 from 4. Now, there are a few once-raced winners in this race, which means they've already won and there could be limitless improvement from them. And they include Hullenbach, who I was really impressed with, who won for Fergal O'Brien, a Rosy Red Rum for Milton Harris, and Hughie Morrison's Philanderer, who's quite closely related to Marble Arch, who was a runner-up in a champion hurdle for the yard. And they are open to any amount of improvement, as too is a horse called Liberty Hunter, who makes its debut for Evan Williams after winning 2 bumpers in good style for Brian Eckley. And this horse could have more to give moving to the bigger yard. Now, Gary Moore does well with his bumper horses, and he's got one called Authorized Speed, who was an odds-on winner by 10 lengths over course and distance last time. He'd previously been beaten a length in a listed bumper in December when third that day, and favourite was a horse called Top Dog. Now, I do think Authorized Speed is going to run well, but Top Dog really I think he's worth checking out. He's my selection for Emma Lavelle and Tom Bellamy. He ran that race at Ascot last time out when just behind authorised speed. He'd previously run at Cheltenham and he'd hung left, as he has done in his last 2 starts. Both times it might have cost him victory. He was running green. I'm hoping the horse will developing. The stable will be getting to know how to ride him better, because as far as raw talent goes, I think this horse has a huge amount of ability. Now, when he was second in the listed race at Cheltenham, in the race at Cheltenham in October, he was beaten by a horse called Bonte, and Bonte is a rattling good bumper horse. And I think that Top Dog might have beaten him had he kept straight. So if they can keep him straight, and given the fact he ran very well again after the Cheltenham race at Ascot, I think he can make a minor surprise here by winning. Now, the only really early prices up are those of William Hill. Credit to them for giving us an early guide, but they are betting to 131% on the book, which means that many of the prices are going to drift. So 10 to 1 each way is the guide price for Top Dog. And despite having not won a race, I think his form overall is possibly as good as anything in the contest. So I think he's really worth a second glance. And Top Dog is my choice, 10 to 1 each way at Newbury in the finale there, the 4:45 on Saturday. So those are my 4 for Saturday. Let's hope that we get a proper run for our money and our recent form is left behind and we start to build up to the Cheltenham Festival with 1 or 2 horses winning and running well for us. But for this weekend selection, that's all from me, Paul Alster. Best of luck. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye for now.